the government is coming out and wearing a brave face, but unfortunately, even in the details, they betray the fact that Kenya is not prepared enough to deal with the crisis of fuel that is imminent from the mid of this month. We have seen government officials giving some details, some of which definitely are underwhelming, and especially when it comes to the issue of reserves that Kenya has in terms of fuel. I saw one of the government officials talking with confidence that Kenya has a 16-day reserve of fuel. That is among the lowest in the world. And we should be talking about how to make that better, and especially around this time when there is a clear imminent crisis as we move towards the mid of April. Many other countries have much more oil reserves. A country like China, we are talking about 45 months of oil reserves that they can survive for around 4 or so years without importing a barrel of oil. And therefore, this crisis has also taken off the veil to see how unprepared we are as a country when it comes to energy security. And I believe that those who are in the decision-making in government will do what is right for the country in terms of being more prepared to deal with this issue. But the major thing that I also have to highlight, we must have seen yesterday and the other day some of the officials dealing with the departments and agencies within the oil sector in Kenya being arrested. And Kenyans need to know that those arrests and the circus around it is not a Kenyan fight. It's a fight among elites. It is a fight among who eats what. The issue of arrests of the EPRA CEO and the Kenya Pipeline and the PS for energy, and especially the petroleum part, it has very little to do with the welfare of Kenyans. It has everything to do with watu wadogo wamekula chakula ya mzee. And Kenyans need to know this clearly so that we remove the veil out of whatever it is happening in our fuel sector. The second thing is that, as Kenyans are aware, there is a program called G2G. G2G is basically a business, and it has been since it started. And it is a business entrenched in patronage. It is a business done by the same people in government. And that is why you realize the same company handling G2G, 75% of the fuel that comes into Kenya, it is the same company that is dealing with exploiting our Turkana oil. It is not a coincidence. It is because G2G, the way it was fashioned, is a cabal of patronage. And it has percolated from downstream to midstream to upstream now. And that is why it is the same people who are exploiting our fuel resources in Turkana, and of course, by taking advantage of our country and by misusing power. It is very insensitive that when other countries are dealing on how to alleviate the matter and to deal with the issue of fuel supplies and prices to benefit their citizens, that in Kenya, the leadership is taking this crisis as a way of entrenching their same personal interests in the fuel sector. As I said when I was starting, the people who are arrested has nothing to do with Kenyans, no more Kenyans. They have everything to do with doing a business that is a domain of the people higher than them in the pecking order of the executive. And it is even more selfish that the same cabal dealing with G2G, and now they are exploiting the fuel resources in Turkana personally to benefit persons who wield power in Kenya. Unashamedly, they have brought a bill before Parliament now to make the same company benefit by giving them asset status, that their operations will now be at a special economic zone, They will not be going to be paying taxes. And I'm asking the people in government, can't enough be enough, my friends? How can we seek to benefit in a crisis to entrench business interests at a time where other countries are dealing with this kind of crisis to manage their economies? Here we are busy managing our personal interests and entrenching them. That, for avoidance of doubt, the company that deals with G2G and handles 75% of the volumes is the same company that is dealing with exploiting our Turkana oil resources. And whatever you see as the owners of those companies, I think now Kenyans are much more aware that we need to remove the veil from the people who purport to be the owners. The owners are the same people who you see on TVs every day. I think it is now time for the leadership of this country to tame their greed and to direct energy and whatever energy there is into dealing with this crisis. And I'm proposing 3 things, and I've been proposing them. And we must not wait, because waiting is showing how unprepared we are. Our country, as you are all aware, reviews the oil prices in the middle of the month. The people in government should be busy. They should actually not have broken for Easter holiday. They should be busy dealing with 3 things. 1, allocating enough resources for subsidies. Because Kenyans are not going to shoulder the disruption in oil prices if the government will not be doing something about it. Number 1 thing is to provide enough resources for subsidies. Kenya currently consumes around 400 million liters of petrol and diesel per month. And I heard the government people purporting there is 17 billion for all stabilization of prices. That is not enough, my friends. Kenya needs to allocate adequate resources to offer subsidies to the fuel pump prices. Because consumers cannot shoulder the price, neither can our economy be able to shoulder the price increment. The second thing that you have to do now is that the government needs to draft a bill immediately. Instead of this bill they are bringing in parliament to make one company assess to profit from Kenyan resources and benefiting the same people in power, the bill they should bring before the House immediately is that of making fuel in Kenya VAT exempt. We are in a desperate situation. We need to deal with that now. The third thing is that the minister in charge of fuel holistically, and the minister for transport, and especially the one for transport, they need to give a gazette notice immediately, waiving the 7 shillings in fuel levy that was added in 2024. Those things are the only flexibilities that can work immediately without waiting. And it is disappointing to see that the people in government are prioritizing politics now, going around the country to politic, when the country is facing an imminent crisis as we go to the mid of April. In an oil producing country like Kenya, the flexibility is there, and especially when it comes to government lowering their appetite for taxes and levies. The current situation in Kenya is that of the fuel prices we pay in the pump, around 50% is levies and taxes. And therefore it means as we fuel with around 180 shillings, 90 shillings is money the government is collecting from you as you fuel your car. And therefore, there is a lot of flexibility up to all that wavelength that we should be exploiting. Unfortunately, it seems the people in government are just wishing this situation away. You can't wish it away. There has to be a deliberate and objective and active policy change that should be happening immediately now, not later. And therefore, I call upon them and again remind them, Kenyans are not going to accept any variations in fuel prices in the middle of April before the government talks about lowering the fuel levy by first abolishing the 7 shillings that was added in 2024. Secondly, before the government offers subsidies to Kenyans and Kenyan factories. And number 3, before we make fuel VAT exempt. And many times people can ask, why can't a member of parliament do this in parliament? Because Kenyans, legitimately, they should ask us these questions. That is a gridlock. In parliament, there is something we call money bills. And whatever we need to do across all these perspectives, you must introduce a bill that has a money element. We call them money bills. And they move faster when they are government-sponsored bills. And because it is the same government that added VAT in 2023, it is the same government that added fuel levy in 2024. And it is the same government that abolished subsidies in 2022. Then the ball is in their court to undo whatever they did. And again, I'm repeating, this cannot wait. It must be done immediately because we must be seen and we must also proceed to do what is right for our economy and what is appropriate for us to do now. Lastly, just like all the other Kenyans, we have seen IEBC giving a guideline in regards to voter registration. And we want to ask them because Kenya is now in a very sensitive moment as we head to 2027, which is next year. IEBC, you have to learn to be communicating exhaustively. And we are requesting you to give a more comprehensive statement on what you meant when you said about voter registration and checking. But also use technology. People can now check whether they are appropriately registered through their gadgets. You can use the systems that our phones can access. You can also use online platforms so that Kenyans can adequately check whether they are duly registered with IEBC, and so that we do not create a situation where we have so much demand on the side of the citizens that which IEBC cannot handle. And the other thing is for them to check whether they have appropriate and adequate human resource to be able to carry the exercise as they want Kenyans to do. So they need to check backwards, check whether they have enough human personnel to be able to do physical verification of voters, but more importantly, they need to clearly communicate, because whatever they communicate through a statement and whatever else they say verbally seems to have variances. They need to be clear-minded and communicate clearly on what exactly they want Kenyans to do. But again, as I repeat, they must also use technology for Kenyans to verify their registration details and their registration their registration status with IEBC.